Hello. In this section of the book, I'm going to share with you a little bit about the complementary principle and how it interferes with the functions of languages. Usually, when we are bilingual, and I can explain to you this by experience, we use one language for one purpose and one language for the other. We have a strong language for family purposes or for school or for social activities, and another one for other relevant areas of our life. So it's very normal that bilingual kids come to school and they have a limited vocabulary in one of the domains or one of the areas, because obviously they have work in a different language for that specific area. For example, I usually speak Spanish at home, and my kids know that when I speak Spanish is at home is because we are going to talk about family situation, or in general about things that happen at home. But when we want to speak about professions and about education and about school, we always do it in English, and we switch very naturally. So the same happened to these kids. And that's part of what the author of this book explained about the complementary principle, and how some bilingual are stronger in one language and weaker in another language, depending on the domain that they are speaking, so, or in the context that they are speaking. So for example, if you learn mathematics in one language when you were a kid, usually you keep counting in that language, but it could happen also that you learn some of your mathematics, advanced math, maybe in another language, and then you switch. Like for some operation you do it in English, for some operation you do it in Spanish or French or your other language. The complementary principle explain how you really have a limited vocabulary in one language, but you complement with the other. That means you use your other language in that other domain with that other vocabulary, and at the end your vocabulary ends being very, very rich, because you can in both languages, in two or three languages, you can speak about the same domain. And the some impact of this complementary principle is the fluency, of course, and the language dominance. So the fluency refers to the fact that if I have always studied in English at the university level, I am much more fluent speaking about professions or about education in English than I am in Spanish or in French. And my strongest language for profession is probably English, whereas my stronger language for socially or for family is Spanish. My kids, they know perfectly well that when I give an order at home, or I tell them to do something, it's going to be in Spanish. And, I would never do that in English, because I don't know, I never learned how to do it, or maybe I know how to say it, but I just don't feel like it's the same. Even when I'm mad, or when I'm angry, or when I yell, I always do it in Spanish. You will never hear to me yelling in English, or or being mad or angry in English. I never do it. I just never do it. However, I would always do other things in that language. So it's important to know that about the kids that come to us, because maybe they are used to use one language for one purpose and another language for another purpose, and I think that's okay. I don't think we have to tell this kid, speak English, don't speak Russian, because maybe socially they feel better to speak Russian to their friends, and that's totally okay. So we have to really be careful, and use the other language, for the purpose of teaching them other things in English, or but don't just let that other language go, because it's very important. It has an important part of vocabulary, it has an important part of their feelings, and it has an important part of that can come and complement the English language that they are learning. Okay, that's all for this section, and thank you very much.